come to the most northwesterly corner of Greece. The British have been falling under this island's spell for centuries. This is Corfu. In this episode, I'm going to be travelling across the northernmost regions of Greece, an area where, more than anywhere else in the country, has remained vastly influenced by the world around it. It sits at a crossroads. Over there, across the sea, is Western Europe. Behind me over here, the mountains of Albania and Eastern Europe rising up out of the ocean. And over there, right out of sight, far away in the distance, where I'm going, is Greece's border with the East and the rest of the continent of Asia. It's a frontier land where foreign invasion and occupation have left a fascinating legacy. Greece, a land as diverse and surprising as any I've ever seen. I've already visited the world of the ancient Greeks, where Western civilization began, and places off the tourist trail, where myths and traditions still persist. Can you imagine that this is the way you get your food, which is just by hunting on these hillsides? In this series, I hope to understand more of the Greece of today by exploring places and meeting people influenced by this great nation's rich and turbulent past.
Τους εκτέλεσαν, κανένας δεν γλίτωσε.
The Ionian island of Corfu, one of Britain's favourite holiday destinations, attracting about 500,000 of us each year. But I'm here to discover where our love for this island began, starting my odyssey on Corfu's tranquil northeast coast. Because of Corfu's strategic position in the Mediterranean, she's been fought over and occupied by all sorts of people throughout the ages, by the Romans, by the Russians, by the Turks, even by the British for a short time. And she became the most desirable island in the world to have, to hold, to live in, to own, to run, because of her position on the trade routes. Corfu has been occupied more than 10 times. The British were the last of this island's rulers more than a century ago. But the more I explore this coast, the more it feels like they never left. The Brits fell in love with this. This part of Corfu is actually called Kensington-on-Sea because so many great and grand and fabulous people have made their homes here. This little house on the waterfront was where the Durrell family lived. They came to Corfu, and it's where Gerald Durrell fell in love with the creepy crawlies, the insects, the birds, the lizards, the mice, the snakes. Prince Charles, the Duchess of Cornwall, and David Cameron have all holidayed in these mansions, and as many as 1 in 10 residents are British. The houses here are terribly expensive. One went only 2 days ago for 15 million euros. I have a special invitation to visit one of Corfu's most distinguished residents. How lovely, that's the Count and Countess Flamboriani, the little private beach. Count Flamboriani can trace his lineage back to the start of the island's Venetian rule from the 14th century. Before the British occupation, his ancestors helped control this land for 400 years. That's their fabulous house. Today, he divides his time between London and the island.
Let me help you and welcome you to this lovely little beach. Pity you didn't come earlier. You would be able to swim with our dolphins.
Oh, no, there were dolphins?
Yes, yeah. This is Millie, my wife. Yeah, my suffering wife.
And how long have you lived here?
Well, we have built the villa 12 years ago.
Yes. In London, you don't live in Kensington, do you?
Yes, we do.
Perfect. So this is from you that we call it Kensington-on-Sea here. Although the Count is of Italian descent, It's the influence of the 50-year British occupation on the island that has made him one of Corfu's staunchest Anglophiles.
Well, let's go and have a ginger beer. What do you think?
A ginger beer? Is that very Greek?
It's been left over by the British when Corfu was under the British protectorate, and they're producing it since.
I find this quite extraordinary.
Thank you.
It's got even Greek writing on it.
The lemon, the ginger, and the ginger beer.
And the fizz of the ginger beer as it opens. I used to make ginger beer when I was young, and the bottles always exploded.
Anyway, to your good health.
To your good health.
And as they say, yasu.
Yasu. Yasu. Yasu.
The legacy of the British protectorate over the 50 years, where should one start, where should one finish? It goes on and on and on. The brass bands. Edward Lear.
Oh, Gerald Durrell.
Lord Guildford established the first Greek university in Corfu.
How extraordinary.
It's another thing which was introduced by the British.
These islands have got a very special feeling. Is it because they're in the Mediterranean rather than the Aegean? There's something about the Ionian Islands that seems to have a kind of independence.
No, I'll tell you what it is. It's the Western influence. The rest of Greece had the Ottoman influence.
Yeah.
They felt that they're apart from the Western civilization. That's why you have fantastic composers, fantastic painters, fantastic poets, fantastic writers, all influenced from the West.
The Count suggests I go to Corfu town, which is dominated by the towering 15th century Venetian fortress, one of the reasons Corfu was never occupied by the Ottoman Empire. Today, the town is home to 30,000 people and an astonishing number of house martins and swallows. Its beautiful architecture and narrow streets have left the centre of the town unspoilt. I'm drawn to the main square, where the locals have gathered for the most traditional of British customs. Well, this is an odd scene. We're in the middle of Corfu town. We've got the British Palace over there. And this is the cricket ground, and there's the cricket pitch, but we're practically on it now. It's a sylvan scene. It could be, well, it could be England, but it's Corfu. Cricket is one of Corfu's favourite sports. Teams here play up to 100 games a year on this unique sporting ground. I've never seen such a small ground. There are fielders just out amongst, it's sort of in the car park. There are chaps on bikes who are virtually on the boundary. Cafes over there, but they've all got nets in front of them so you don't get a smashed teacup. This is jolly strange. I mean, there are marks for cars right up the edge here. They must get smashed sometime. Woo! It's on the road. It hit the Holidays Corfu car, which fielded it nicely, just stopped it. But I think we'll call that a 6, won't we? It's a big day for the combined Corfu team. Before this series, they'd never beaten the fearsome MCC from England. But today, they might be in with a chance. The visitors seem to be put off by playing in a car park. Something that wasn't around when the British Navy started playing here.
Local Corfians watching the game, start slowly learn the rules.
Yeah.
And 1893 we had the first cricket club in Corfu playing cricket against the English.
And so that's when the Corfu love of cricket began.
Yes, love cricket. Now we have 21 clubs all over Greece, and this ground here is unique.
Go, boys!
This is Alistair.
Hi.
We think it's getting a bit close now because they've got 29, so we've got 4 more overs to make.
24 to win off 4 overs.
Possible?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Confidence. They've got to get 2 runs off 3 balls. I mean, this is really taking it to the wire, you know. Unfortunately, it wasn't the Corfu team's day.
We did our best.
Has your team ever played the MCC in England?
No.
Would you like to do that?
Of course, it's a dream for every
Is it?
player here to play in England. That's a dream.
Does your family play cricket?
Yeah. My dad played for national team.
Did he?
My grandfather too. And now I am playing for the national team, all family. And I love it.
Maybe Corfians are proud of their adopted British pastimes because it makes them feel different from the rest of Greece. And they worship their own special saint as well, St. Spiridon. He's thought to have performed miracles, saving the islanders from a plague and driving off invaders in the 18th century. Curiously enough, one of their festivals celebrating their saint resulted in the whole island taking up another British tradition. Lovely cacophony of sound. I can hear a band tuning up. I think I've come to the right place, chaps in uniforms. Follow this one in. Being married to a musician, I think there's almost nothing more thrilling than hearing a band tuning up. Once you get the drums going, you can't hear much else. Bizarrely, Queen Victoria is responsible for this adopted passion. She refused to allow her navy to play at a St. Spiridon festival, so the locals formed their own marching bands. Tell me, I'm meeting Spiros, the president, and Spiros, the band leader.
St. Spiridon is the local saint.
Ah, he's the patron saint
That's
of the
why
island.
the majority of all Corfians are Spiros, are called Spiros.
You're both called
You're
Spiros?
both Spiros, yeah.
Are there more Spiroses here, do you think?
The half of them.
Half of them are Spiros. Is there a feminine version of Spiros? Is there a girl's name?
Spiridula. Spiridula.
Spiridula.
Yeah. Feminine. Yeah.
There's a lovely slight smell of brasso coming out of this cupboard. Everything polished, looking so shiny. How exciting, an entire cupboard filled with these ancient-looking helmets. Tell me, how old are these helmets?
Some of them are more than 100 years.
Are they really?
Yeah, yeah.
And how many bands are there? Is this the only one?
No. In Corfu there are 20 bands. 20 bands. 2,500 musicians.
Unbelievable.
In 120,000 people, inhabitants.
That's quite extraordinary, isn't it?
It's an extra tradition. It's something unbelievable.
And is this band a special one? Is it old?
This one is the oldest one.
The oldest?
From 1840.
How fantastic.
Yeah.
Literally their marching orders, and in a second from now we're going to hear the band in full flight. I think I better move or pick up an instrument, one or the other. I think I'll move.
He's 3 years old.
He's 3 years old. Do you think he would join one of the marching bands? For sure.
For sure, yes. All Corfians.
All Corfians.
In all houses, 1 or 2 musicians is definitely...
In all houses?
We learn English and music.
English and music. I love that. I love that. It's wonderful. This is just an extraordinary community. There are people here who are aged between 8 and much, much older than that. They've all grouped together in this extraordinary thing of music which pulses through all the Greeks. It's fitting that the band finishes their march at the British Palace, where the island's British legacy began all those years ago. A ferry is taking me across the narrow strip of water to the mainland of Greece.